The Assembly will hear an address by Her Excellency Isatou Touray, Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia. May I request protocol to escort Her Excellency. I have great pleasure in welcoming the Vice President of the Republic of Gambia and invite her to address the General Assembly.
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, Your Majesties, distinguished heads of state and government, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of His Excellency President Adama Barrow and the people of the Gambia, let me express our sincere gratitude to His Excellency Ms. Maria Fernanda Espinosa Garces for her excellent leadership during the 73rd session of the General Assembly. In a similar vein, Mr. President, the Gambia welcomes your presidency of the General Assembly with hope and excitement. Let me assure you of our unwavering support throughout your tenure. We also thank the Secretary General for his strong leadership and reform initiatives during one of the toughest periods when multilateralism is witnessing unprecedented assaults. Mr. President, allow me to seize this opportunity to extend to you warmest greetings and best wishes from His Excellency Mr. Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia, who would have loved to be here in person, but due to other state matters could not and has asked that I extend to you all his sincere apology and best wishes for a successful 74th session of the General Assembly. Today, as I speak from this assembly with a heavy heart, 54 years ago, our founding father and first president, the late Alhaji Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara, ushered the Gambia in as a member of the United Nations on the 21st September 1965. He was a beloved leader, a Pan-Africanist, a statesman, a global citizen, and a true champion of human rights and the rule of law. He dedicated his life to the search for peace around the world. We mourn the demise of this colossus of a human being and commit ourselves as a government and people to preserving and celebrating his enduring legacy. Mr. President, the theme that you have chosen for our general debate, galvanizing multilateral efforts for poverty eradication, quality education, climate action, and inclusion, is indeed very relevant for our times. In the light of the multiplicity of the challenges facing the international community today, we cannot afford the enormous cost associated with weak multilateral institutions or inadequate multilateral action. No country can single-handedly solve the challenges of global inequality, terrorism, or climate change. For those of us coming from the developing world, we strongly support the work of our multilateral institutions and efforts geared towards finding collective solutions to our development and security needs. As developing countries, most of our countries are in special situations that require special development plans, which will benefit from initiatives, experiences, and best practices harnessed through South-South and triangular cooperation. Therefore, as we strive to attain the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, let us collectively galvanize new resources, new efforts, and innovative ideas and approaches so that no one would be left behind. Mr. President, in the Gambia, we understand the critical difference multilateral efforts can make in transforming a society teetering on the brink of despair into one of hope and a model for emulation. The story of the new Gambia started in December 2016 when the people ushered in a new era of democracy, freedom, and the rule of law. As a government, we launched a plethora of reforms in governance, transitional justice, and prudent fiscal and economic management. Today, we can proudly report that our reforms are bearing fruit and yielding positive dividends. Our Constitutional Review Commission has concluded consultations with Gambians at home and abroad. For the first time in our history, we have a National Human Rights Commission to address human rights concerns of the people. As a result of a number of informed policy decisions and actions since the advent of the new government in 2017, the Gambia is back again as the human rights capital of Africa and a small country with a big voice on matters of human rights in the continent and beyond. In the area of transitional justice, the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, TRRC, is now functional and addressing past human rights violations of the former government with the active participation of victims and perpetrators. The TRRC has also consulted with the Gambian diaspora as an important constituency of our quest for inclusiveness and national reconciliation. With the setting up of the TRRC and the revelations from the public hearings, Gambians have now awakened to the true extent of the crimes and egregious violations of human rights willfully committed by a government against its own people. Stories about egregious human rights violations like extrajudicial killings, disappearances, rape, and torture remain mere stories until now. This is no longer the case thanks to the collaborative work that the international community is doing with the government today. In this connection, sustaining the ongoing collaboration and support will remain critical to the success of our efforts in instituting accountability for past crimes, generating a historic record for transitional justice in the Gambia, which in our view will contribute to healing, national reconciliation, and closure for the society at large. As part of our broad reforms and major national priority, we have now created a separate Ministry of Women, Children, and Social Welfare to address the concerns of women, children, and the wider social inclusion. Women's empowerment, education of the girl child, ending gender-based violence and discrimination against women and girls, and ensuring effective and efficient social inclusion for all are priorities of our government. Mr. President, with the launch of our National Development Plan 2018-2021, which seeks to consolidate our recent democratic gains as well as revive and transform our economy for solid growth, job creation, and peace consolidation, we have managed to stabilize the economy, instituted fiscal discipline through better management of our sustainable debt. Through a mix of prudent budgetary and macroeconomic policies, we have managed to register a 6.6% rate of economic growth. Our tourism sector, a major foreign exchange earner, has grown over 21% over the past 2 years. These achievements have also had a positive impact on reducing the phenomenon of irregular migration of our youth. The government has also come up with targeted interventions for the empowerment of the youth of our country. Skills development, entrepreneurial support, and other opportunities are now being made available to the youth. For the Gambia, the ongoing global debate and implementation of Agenda 2030 cannot leave the youth behind because they constitute the majority of our society. We therefore ask for international support and partnership to enable us to create more opportunities through education, skills development, and technology and knowledge transfer, as these have the potential to boost the contribution of our young people towards addressing poverty, social and economic inequalities, and the overall attainment of the SDGs. Our commitment as the international community to work with each other to establish genuine partnership with a view to sharing and learning from each other's experiences and technical know-how will go a long way in empowering the young people and increase their positive contributions. Mr. President, as a society in transition, we hope to consolidate our democratic gains by using national policies and action plans to also implement Agenda 2030 on sustainable development goals. In 2020, we are planning to undergo a voluntary national review at the high-level political forum. One of the major challenges that we must continue to address even as we strive to bring macroeconomic stability to to our economy is our high debt burden. Therefore, as we concurrently seek the attainment of the SDGs with our national development priorities, the continued support of our development partners, private sector participation, and technical cooperation to help address the capacity and financial gaps will remain critical. We appreciate the ongoing support of the United Nations and its readiness to continue to play a catalytic role in this process as facilitators of development processes and convener of development actors. Mr. President, as part of the reforms to address the wrongs of the past, the government also sets up a commission of inquiry into the financial activities of the former president and his close associates. The commission concluded its work. The cabinet reviewed its findings and issued a white paper thereon with strong recommendations. Through the illegal activities and illicit financial dealings of the former president and his associates, the Gambia has lost more than 350 million in funds that could have transformed the country's development trajectory for good. Other estimates put the figure higher. As a poor developing country, we are appealing to the international community to come to our aid in tracking and returning some of this wealth. We ask for your solidarity and cooperation for the recovery of our looted wealth. Mr. President, the successes that we are registering would not have been possible without the support of friends and all our bilateral partners like the EU and multilateral organizations, particularly the UN, AU, ECOWAS, African Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank, World Bank, the IMF, etc. Our partnership with the Peacebuilding Commission of the United Nations remain very critical to the success of our transition process. We are truly grateful for their strong commitment and unwavering support. We continue to face challenges, but with your steadfast support, the Gambia will emerge as a success story at the end of our transition. Our concerns as a developing country are not very different from the concerns of our neighbors in West Africa and the Sahel. Mr. President, across our region, we are facing increasing threats from the rise of terrorism, violent extremism, proliferation of illicit weapons and drug trafficking, including human trafficking. The deadly terrorist attacks have become more organized, more sophisticated, and more frequent across an increasing number of countries in the sub-region. We are grateful to the United Nations Office for West Africa and the Sahel, UNOWAS and ECOWAS, for constantly championing the problem of the region as we constantly underscore the urgency of the successful implementation of the UN integrated strategy for the Sahel. The strategy needs to simultaneously address the security and development challenges of the region with a renewed sense of commitment. More international and regional cooperation and solidarity are needed to tackle the pervasive insecurity and underdevelopment in the Sahel. Without peace, the Sahel and West Africa will find it difficult to attain the goals of Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2063 of the African Union. As we march towards realizing these blueprints of the United Nations and the African Union respectively, the Gambia will host 7 West African countries for a high-level sub-regional exchange forum on localizing the Agenda 2030, building on what works, to be held from the 27th to the 29th October of this year. In this regard, the Gambia is grateful for the partnership it has established with the UN Human Security Unit and International Peace Institute in an effort to continue sustaining peace and development in the sub-region. Mr. President, my delegation welcomes the Secretary General's reform proposal on restructuring of the peace and security pillar and in the areas of development cooperation, peace building and peacekeeping. We look forward to their successful implementation in line with the member state-driven processes that were launched to accompany them. We would also want to see increased efficiency, effectiveness of cooperation in the Sahel, where the UN and other international actors will not only give priority to conflict prevention and sustaining peace, but also regional and sub-regional cooperation. The United Nations must give effective support to the Peacebuilding Commission and overcome fragmentation in its responses through the alignment of the peace and security needs of the Sahel with the development imperatives of the region. When it comes to the Sahel, we must draw inspirations from the wise words of the late Kofi Annan, former UN Secretary General, who said, "We will not enjoy security without development. We will not enjoy development without security. And we will not enjoy either without respect for human rights." Mr. President, the Gambia continues to contribute to peacekeeping and peace initiatives across Africa and beyond. Silencing the guns in Africa by 2020, an African Union initiative, is still a lofty goal that we must relentlessly continue to pursue at this late hour. A peaceful Africa is possible, and we must do more to encourage dialogue in Libya, with a view to finding a lasting political solution to the conflict there. The parties must lay down their arms, sit down, and negotiate in good faith. We equally call on the factions in Central African Republic to give peace a chance. The United Nations must do more to find lasting peace for the long-suffering people of the Central African Republic and other affected conflict areas within the continent. My delegation fully supports the political processes currently evolving in the Sudan and South Sudan. We encourage both countries not to relent until they attain the goals of peace, stability, and national cohesion. Across the globe, there are a lot of urgent issues that continue to challenge our collective conscience and humanity. Over the past few years, we have witnessed a rise in racism, xenophobia, intolerance, and anti-migrant sentiments, largely found by extremist groups, bigoted politicians, and hate mongers with deadly consequences. Collectively, we must strongly condemn and reject these barbaric attacks, hate speeches, and divisive rhetoric against foreigners. The world cannot remain silent. Migrants deserve protection and support. More needs to be done at the multilateral level to address these menaces. It is our hope that more will be done to implement the Global Compact on Migration. Mr. President, extreme weather events, increasing desertification, deforestation, rising sea levels, irreparable loss of biological diversity should all serve as a wake-up call that climate change is real and already upon us. Are we going to continue the empty rhetoric or continue to look the other way and do nothing? Are we going to take stronger or bolder steps to address it, or are we going to continue to take weak or half-hearted measures that do not take us near the 1.5 degrees target? The Climate Action Summit held on Monday gave the world a major opportunity where member states demonstrated true commitment to taking critical actions that will make a difference. The Gambia is committed, and we are already taking action to implement the Paris Agreement. We expect all nations, small or big, to demonstrate their commitment by taking genuine climate action. Let us leave New York with a new sense of urgency to tackle climate change. Like the climate, hundreds of billions of people in the world today continue to lack health coverage. At the national and international levels, we must adopt clear policies and provide necessary resources for universal health coverage. It is for this reason that the Gambia applauded the timeliness of convening a high-level forum on universal health coverage. We remain hopeful that the outcome of the forum will be fully implemented for the best of all. Mr. President, at this juncture, allow me to share my delegation's thought on some of the political developments in the international arena. Mr. President, as a pillar of our foreign policy engagement with the People's Republic of China, we recognize only one China in our mutual quest to enhance and nurture friendly relations on the basis of mutual respect and sovereign equality. We also believe that the evolution of our relations is built on shared prosperity and a win-win approach. Mr. President, the embargo imposed on Cuba by the United States belongs to a bygone era. We call on the United States to end the embargo and give friendly relations and good neighborliness a chance. We also reiterate our commitment to the two-state solution in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The international community must galvanize renewed efforts towards a comprehensive peace process. The conflict has persisted for too long. Palestinians must be allowed to have their own independent state with East Jerusalem as their capital. Israel must also stop all settlement activity in occupied Palestinian territories, as well as respect the human rights of Palestinians. The two sides need to urgently negotiate a political solution to a conflict that continues to affect millions of lives. We are convinced that the situation requires a credible peace initiative which the United Nations and the international community can spearhead with the support of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation in its search for peace in Palestine. The OIC can play a strategic role in partnering with the UN and other partners by serving as a credible bridge for mutual dialogue and understanding in the search for comprehensive peace across the Middle East and the world at large. The unique platform that the organization enjoys in the Islamic world can foster interreligious dialogue and intercultural understanding among peoples and faiths of the world. Mr. President, the government of the Gambia champions the promotion and protection of human rights as one of the central pillars of our domestic and foreign policies concerning the well-being of our own people and people elsewhere in the world. It is for these reasons that we continue to be deeply concerned about extreme violations of human rights and troubling rise in cases of xenophobia and related intolerance in certain parts of the world. We therefore count on the Secretary General and people in position of authority to use their good offices to engage world leaders to do more to fight intolerance and extremism. We need to make the world a safer and tolerant place for all people. The Gambia is ready to lead the concerted efforts for taking the Rohingya issue to the International Court of Justice on behalf of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and we are calling on all stakeholders to support this process. As a global community with conscience, we cannot continue to ignore the plight of the Rohingya, and it is for that reason my delegation is seizing this opportunity to call on the UN, like-minded nations, and concerned stakeholders to synchronize our efforts in the search for a just, speedy, and lasting solution to the Rohingya crisis. Mr. President, the legitimacy of multilateral institutions like the United Nations and its organs is built on the foundation that all member states share in the values of the organization, because we all have the same voice and standing when it comes to decision making. Many are losing faith in the Security Council and its decisions. We need to urgently embark on reform of the Council, which is long overdue. Today, African issues form the bulk of the Council's agenda, but no African country is a veto-wielding member of that organ. A whole continent could be shut out of decisions affecting it that has been considered normal. Let those countries standing in the way of Security Council reform give way and fully support the Azul-Winnie consensus of the African group. The demands are just and legitimate. Mr. President, with the support of our friends, the Gambia is on a new and upward trajectory today. The government's approach continues to be strongly guided by our awareness of the difficult past that our people have overcome. It is in this regard that we continue to ask for your continued support and cooperation as we endeavor to build a more prosperous and highly developed country envisaged in our current development blueprint, the National Development Plan 2018-2021. As a country in transition, we strongly believe in the utility of multilateralism and institutions of multilateral diplomacy as tools to solve our challenges. We, as small state members, optimize our strength, leverage our voice when we work with the international community and friends to solve the collective problems confronting us as one big family. Global challenges require global efforts for satisfactory and cost-effective solutions. We strongly commend the role of the United Nations in our transition process. We will continue to work with all states in the General Assembly to address the concerns of small and developing countries. Once again, on behalf of the President, President Barrow, and the government of the people of the Gambia, I extend sincere appreciation to all our bilateral and multilateral partners for their continuous support and assistance to the country. I wish you all a successful 74th session. I thank you.
باسم الجمعية العامة أود أن أشكر.
In the name of the General Assembly, I would like to thank Vice President of Gambia, for her statement. May I request the protocol to accompany Her Excellency.